Hi, this is Victor Lund from the WAV Group. We're going to be talking about AI again here today. And I have with me my friend Michael Wurzer. He's the Chief Executive Officer of FBS and the makers of a pretty cool Flexmls MLS system. So, hi, Michael, how are you?
Hey Victor, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so unfortunately, you weren't able to get on our last webinar. We had a webinar I'll link to somewhere down there where we had Ira Luntz along with David Gumper, our CTO here at Wave Group, really talk about the strategy of AI for MLSs. And you guys were doing your user group summit, so you weren't able to join, but we agreed to catch up later on that. So I just kind of wanted to start by laying a little foundation. I know that when we talk about AI, we're talking about a term which has, been used for a long time, is poorly understood. We're into this world of, um, Gen AI now and agentic AI now, and it's pretty confusing. All these terms are very different for people. What's a RAG and an MCP server? So we wrote a paper about this that I think is really helpful. We'll put a link down below, but it's called the Three Tiers of AI. But I do want to just level set on this as to what we're talking about before we jump into our conversation. So tier one of AI is probably the thing that most people have used. You have a ChatGPT account. Hopefully you have a professional account, but it's a ChatGPT account or something like that. There's all kinds of other ones, and I don't want to debate who's got the best, but we'll just use ChatGPT as our example here today. With that product, you can kind of go out to the internet and have super knowledge to research information and give you some pretty outstanding things. I mean, if you're not wowed by AI and what it can do when it's just looking at general knowledge, you're like, wow, this is pretty fantastic. And it's certainly very, very transformative from just using a search engine to research information. And for real estate, it has profound implications. The second tier, our tier two of AI, is what's called a RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. And that's one area where we've seen MLSs take some initiative. I know Artie has done pretty well. There's a couple of MLSs, I don't know how many, but we've seen quite a few MLSs take like all their FAQs, all their rules and regulations for the MLS, the association, and all that stuff, and put it into a file folder, and then you can run AI on top of that. So rather than calling the help desk, or if you need, a question answered, you can just go in and ask the AI and it'll give you. And that kind of chatbot experience has been around for a while. It's much better with generative AI, but really tier two is about taking your documents and putting them into one place and telling the AI, please interrogate that. Ask the question from this information, and that, of course, gives you the best answers. But the limitation to tier two is it's static documents that you generally don't have live documents in there or live data feeds or anything like that. So that takes us up to tier three. So tier three is sort of a secure private environment where your data sits. And think about, in our case, we're going to be talking about listing data today. Could be roster data too, but it's like it is your data repository, and it's all the data that you have. And the two things about like an MCP server is, number one, it can access live data, and number two, it can actually do things. An example would be build a report and email it or something like that. Or go search this information and we'll play around until I get the information I like, and then generate a PDF for me. So like it does a lot more things, but the most important thing is it's private, it's secure, and things like that. We're going to be talking about MCP servers today. Wave Group's argument is that MLSs need to provide an MCP server for their brokers, agents, teams, whatever. They're your customers. And that MCP server is going to give the MLS the opportunity to make an AI-enabled MLS opportunity possible. And you guys, I mean, I don't, let's just talk about your company for a minute. You're one of the top MLS service providers in the country in terms of total install base, both in the number of people that are using your application as well as the number of markets. There's some guys that are bigger, some guys that are smaller, but you guys are, you're there. Like you guys serve a huge amount of the industry. So let's just talk about that, and then let's get into AI a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are thinking we're number two with behind Cotality there. And yeah, we serve about 150 something, keep adding every month. So we're always net positive, which is a great thing. Serve about 325,000 or so agents. Obviously, that number changes, every month, both from new customers, but also changes in the market. But yeah, we're just super pleased. Our growth rate's always been very consistent, and that's what we try to maintain, is just that continual trend up without being too extreme about it, and keep servicing our clients at a high level. In terms of AI, we're super excited about what's going on. I mean, it's it's so wild every day. There's just something new and frankly revolutionary that seems to be happening. It's hard to um, keep abreast of it. But when we, saw what Anthropic was doing with MCP, and that was getting adopted by many vendors, OpenAI, and many others, that really keyed our interest because of your point that you just made, the dynamic nature of MLS information, and of APIs, like a RESO Web API or a Spark API, etc., enables interactions that are really cool. And I can show you a little bit about how that works and give some concrete examples. But I think that the thing that was also really exciting for me is, I think probably 15 years ago when we started building the Spark API, which we built because of the mobile phones, right? That was the revolution that happened at that time. In order to access the MLS data on a mobile device or whatever new device was coming along, you kind of needed this agnostic API that could serve that information without having to worry about, all of the other details of how to connect and get that information. So we started building APIs for that. But I wrote a blog post back then saying, the other thing about APIs that's awesome is you don't know what the future is going to bring in terms of innovation. And I certainly had no idea that AI would take off and become what it has become in the last 3-4 years. But what's cool is the API is there and now can fulfill that promise that was made a long time ago, to say, hey, this new chat interface is powerful, it is useful, and it's especially useful when it can access the listing information through the API. So we're excited about it. Our focus, we just launched this to our customers, told them about it at our summit last, well, it was a little over a week ago. I was on vacation last week, so I'm losing a week in there. But
congratulations on your birthday and your 60th birthday and your 30th anniversary. That's
yes, thank you.
wonderful milestones, one of which I'll get to 30 years with my wife this year, and
Awesome.
I'll soon catch up to the 60. I'm almost there.
It's great. Thank you for that. It
Oh,
was a
for
lot
sure.
of fun. We had a great week. But yeah, so we announced it, and our key goal now is we got massive interest in getting into the beta program, and so
How does not everybody raise their hand when you
oh,
say,
yeah, really everybody was super interested. So we've got this really cool study because the the great thing about chat is that you can just ask whatever you want, right? But the
yeah,
challenging thing is, well, you can kind of ask whatever you want, and that paralyzes some people. They look at the box and are like, well, I don't know, they'd rather click a button or something like that. So
can I
we're
talk about that just for a second? Because I think
sure.
this is really important. So, one of the things that everybody needs to know, like the MLSs need to know, is that um, when AI first came out, the big news story was prompt engineering is the new career, right? So that hasn't exactly played out, right? So what we see happening is that I'm just going to use a real life scenario, when a real estate agent goes into this environment, they're not only going to receive a prompt, but they're also going to receive like a list of buttons or pills, the little oval design that has pre-engineered prompts, like a whole
Right,
bunch of them.
right,
And those pre-engineered prompts do two things. Number one, it takes you away from the flashing cursor to like press a button to actually see the power of this new product. And when you're talking about our superset of real estate agents that are, mostly over 57 years old, like they're new to AI and they're overwhelmed by it already. But certainly having a bunch of pre-engineered prompts that we know to be highly popular and highly effective at getting an agent started is the right thing to do. So within all of these worlds, like having this prompt library that is curated by the MLS that has feedback from what agents are doing and asking for with the AI is a really key component and something that's nicely supported.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the purpose of our beta study, is to watch, learn, listen, reflect, and integrate that into the feedback loop of the overall system, so that, when we launch to all 300 and however many thousand users we have, it's going to have a lot of that nuance and flavor. But we want to really study people in real world scenarios to see, well, what are the things that this experience, we obviously have a full-fledged MLS system with lots of stuff that they can already do and are familiar with and can use. This is a new way of approaching the data, and so watching and learning is an important first step for us. But with that, let me just I'll share my screen here and give you a little bit of a flavor of what we're doing. You can see my screen now.
Yep. So Mike's using Claude, which is a very popular AI solution.
Yeah, I'll explain a little bit about that. So Claude is created by Anthropic, a company called Anthropic, which was formed by several people who were with OpenAI previously. And Anthropic created MCP, or what's called the Model Context Protocol. Again, it's an open standard. It's being actively developed by many companies, and they're improving. But because Anthropic started it, I think they're further ahead, and in particular, they're further ahead on the authentication piece, which is really critical in the MLS context. I mean, it's critical in all enterprise contexts, really, but for sure for MLS, being able to authenticate and know that the person is authorized to access the MLS information and at what level they're able to access it is critical. And so when I'm in here, this is just that you can imagine it just the same as ChatGPT from OpenAI. But on that note, like OpenAI does support MCP servers, but they only do it with bearer tokens, which is a type of authentication, rather than you logging in with your normal credentials. And so it's just a little more geeky, kind of hard to use experience, and this experience from Claude makes it a lot easier. But when you come in, you can add tools, and I've already added the Spark API in here. And so you can start to see all the different services that we've turned on, and you can, you or your administrators can turn things on or off however you want to in
So
that.
can you go through some of these? Because I think use case scenarios is really important. So the first thing, and I'm imagining when people log in to FBS, that you have a dashboard, and on the dashboard, it might say something like API, or it might, I'm sorry, AI or Gen AI, or I don't know if you have a brand for it or whatever, but click here to access this. And then you're using those user credentials and you're saying, okay, Victor's an agent in good standing in my market. He can now access this. And you click the little drop down list and just go through like some of the things that you can do. You scrolled through it, but highlight some.
Yeah, so I'll actually just show you some of these chats that I did ahead of time. And this is pretty cool. So I'm going to start out and I'm going to say, actually, let me scroll back here a little ways. Sorry about that. It didn't start exactly at the right place. So this is a real broker in Fargo, North Dakota. Randy, I hope you don't mind I used your account.
What's up, Randy? We'll give you a shout out.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
What's his website? We'll send people to his website.
Town and Country Realty in Fargo, North
All
Dakota.
right. Yeah, visit his website. He's great in Fargo if you're looking for a broker.
There you
Okay.
go. So just a couple of things. So I just asked it, as Randy, I said, hey, I want to create a market report. And so these are the things it actually just does. It goes out and does all of the little queries. And this is one of the cool things about being connected to the MLS API is that it'll go, this is all, you don't need to know all this, but underneath it goes and finds all the metadata for that MLS to understand the rules and to understand all the types of data that the MLS system has. And
Can
then
we
it,
just time out for one of those things? So one of the things that's really neat about this is like right now, if I log into the MLS as a user, it knows some things about me, but it doesn't really personalize to me, right? It
right,
knows it personalizes like my logo or something like that, but it doesn't like say, oh, welcome back. This is what you did the last time. Now this does. It has memory, it has experience. It knows like you as a user, like if I'm a broker, I'm probably coming in here for looking up things for recruiting and retention or looking up information about my listings or how, what's my average days on market? How does it compare and contrast to other competitors? Stuff, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what you're working on here, but it
yeah.
remembers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it also then, like in this case, I'm asking it to create market statistics reports. So it goes out and gets all that information. And then this is the first version of the report that it generated. So it's comparing Fargo, West Fargo, Moorhead. And I mean,
Yeah.
I
No,
just
but
typed
let's
in
just stop right there. I
a
got to
simple
stop you.
sentence.
I'm
Sure.
sorry, I'm going to keep stopping you, but
All right.
one of your great customers contacted me and after watching the last webinar we did on this, and he said, if I could just stop paying the amount that I pay for market statistics that I provide to our local media companies, that would be amazing. And it would allow me to curate the kind of information that we want to share that highlights opportunities for consumers in the marketplace today and
Yeah.
gives them a great picture. And right now, I have to go through this stupid report builder and I pay a fortune for this software and I've got to give them a connection to the MLS and everything else. I don't have to do that anymore, right?
I mean, for sure, it's really pretty amazing in that, again, I just typed in a sentence that said compare these three markets, and it kind of went out on its own and did all of these additional things, making sure to get the right sale to list price ratio, and then provided this analysis, which I've gone through, and it is accurate. There are mistakes that get made by these LLMs. So you got to be conscious about checking things. But in this case, it was great. But then if I decide in this case, I'm pretending I'm a broker, and I said, hey, actually, I'm with Remax. Can you make the graph colors match Remax branding? And it literally rewrites the whole report instantaneously. It actually takes maybe 30, 40 seconds. But this is what it's creating. This is what it's writing, is all this code in the back end, but the output is here. Really, again, quite amazing of how it's going about that. And then later on, we're like, hey, really, we should have this, like your point to branding. And so we added that version, and now we're pretending we're an EXP person. And Randy's not with EXP, by the way. we
Yeah,
we
I
just
understand.
we just made that up. But now it's pulling, his roster information from the MLS system, and it's comparing and doing all of this stuff. And if I wanted something else, I just ask, and it will tweak the report, add another market, add additional filters, whatever the case may be. So that's one example. Here's another really cool example, I think, where I'm in here now as um, an agent, and I want to just ask it, hey, what are my top 5 contacts? And give me a report to and advise me on what should be the next actions that I take. And so it goes out and says, okay, I know who you are. You're authorized to see this list, and it starts grabbing all of the different contacts and activities and summarizing those. And it generates a report for this agent's top 5, giving them recommendations about showing them what they're looking at right in the MLS system, giving them immediate action types of recommendations. all of this stuff that again you probably know as an agent, but it's kind of, and this is where again we want to really learn, well, what types of reports will agents really want to ask for? But we've shown this to several agents and they're like, yeah, that is incredibly spot on and quite useful to me as well. So they're, you know, just really giving you a to-do list right directly from your contacts. And here's the last example I'll show where I came in and I'm now in as a demo user rather than a real user. The other two were actual users. But here I'm saying, hey, what listings do I have? And in order to figure that out, again, it goes and looks at the metadata, looks at the tools that are provided. It tells me what listing I have. And then so I just type this, recommend the best days and times for an open house for me. And so it comes back with a recommendation, says all this stuff, and it says, do you want me to schedule those? I say, yeah, go ahead, schedule them. So it goes out, uses the tools we've provided through the API, schedules the open houses. Those are now live in the MLS system. And I finish it up by saying, okay, I want to do a price change down by 2% for that. And it goes ahead and shows me the percentage and what the price change was, etc. And so again, these are all examples of like, all right, what are the types of tasks that an agent is going to want to do? And there are just so many other things, but to your point, if I'm doing a new chat, like we have all of these different services that it can understand about the listings. It can go and do listing searches. It can go and do all sorts of different things around who you are.
Can we try one? Well, I don't know if this is possible or not, but I just want to come up with something that an agent's likely to do that would be really, really hard for them to do in real life. So, are you signed in with an account that has saved searches that are in Flex today?
I'll just see it. I was fooling around with lots of different accounts, so let me see.
Yeah. If you could just
Currently in as a fake user, so I can switch though. I just have to figure out who I should switch to.
But like, here's what I would want to say. Like, I would want to say, go through my customers that I have saved searches for, find those who have not engaged with emails in the last 10 days, and invite them to 2 open houses that match their search criteria. And while he's doing that, I just wanted to say, the really cool thing about all of this is we're using the keyboard right now. All of this can be done through voice.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And that's where it gets like,
yeah,
that's superpowers. Like if you haven't, tried in your personal experience to use ChatGPT or Claude with voice and have conversations with it, the remarkable advancement in its conversational capabilities over the last 90 days is mind-boggling. It's so much better than talking to Alexa or Siri. It's like not even real. It's so crazy.
I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but we'll see.
Yeah, it may not. Yeah, that's okay. It's a random test.
But you can see it's going out and looking at the contacts. Okay, so that's going to be a lot. And this is a case where we can make it more efficient. This guy had 210. So this is fascinating watching.
And that is the remarkable thing, the
Right.
capabilities of it. So, in the old days, if you wanted to do something like this, you would have to understand the query, you'd have to write the query, you'd
Right.
have to, you'd have to have an engineer and a designer involved. And now the AI is doing it all on its own. And it even gives that user the ability to say, oh, that was too much, or oh, that is too small. and to be able to come up with exact ways to kind of play with the data in a reasonable way to make the most sense out of it. And, wow, here we go. These people are the people that haven't who have not engaged recently. And you could say, these are amazing open houses that you should come to. And by the way, those are amazing open houses that I would like to go to. I live just north of Santa Barbara. It's
Right.
yeah.
I mean, and like again, like this is a great example of where you can kind of see it looking out and going, hey, I could do better if I had X.
Yeah.
And so that's where we can again watch and see what people are doing. As if this is a great example of a question where, yeah, we'd love to be able to do that, but we would benefit if we had this information or that. We add that to the MCP server because the API supports it. We just probably haven't added that specific thing through the API server. So it's amazing the kind of stuff you can ask about. And I love that it's both cutting edge and practical. Again, I think a lot of this, our first focus is the agent. I think some of the other discussion you had, I think, just when you were telling me about the webinar you did last week, is more on the public maybe getting access, which is also an awesome opportunity. Our first focus is on agents and MLS staff and folks like that being able to do a variety of queries. Who are the newest agents that were added to the system? All of that sort of stuff. So there's just so many different things that can be done. What are the rules around price changes? You can ask, and it's got access to all the metadata in the system.
Yeah,
So
and that's
answer.
important to say. If you want to kill your screen, we don't need to show this anymore. But I think it's important to say that in your world, within your API, like your broker or your MLS customers don't need to go out and buy a third-party RAG service because you've already loaded all this stuff in. So all of the rule sets that people are paying extra for now, if you're an FBS customer, it's already there. You just have to raise your hand and talk to us about it.
Right.
Because I think that is so important. Real estate agents would prefer to get answers to their questions so they can do the right thing versus getting a fine for something that they did incorrectly because they weren't able to get a quick, easy answer to something or whatever.
Right.
It's like it
Yeah.
really does reposition the MLS as a stronger partner. Somebody who's leveraging technology in the best possible way to serve them and giving them opportunities to explore all the value that's created in the MLS, but do it in a way that keeps the MLS in the middle. So, you talked about, IDP, so like the identity. So making sure that agents, brokers, and teams have access to this information, and they're the only ones because, it's
Right.
access to their special, cooperative data,
Well, and obviously, if the API can support things that change stuff, I can add a contact, I can do all of that stuff, but it's, very. We didn't show the authentication. I've obviously already done that.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, but
But I mean, that's a
when you're logged in,
critical.
you're logged in,
It's a critical piece, right?
Yeah.
And obviously as a FBS person, I can super use and change identities. That's something that is otherwise generally not needed by a
No, but
regular.
the MLS can as well,
But
right?
yeah, there are
I
the
mean,
people with superpowers. That's a good thing.
well, think about, trainers.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
man, wouldn't it be great to go into an office meeting today and say, we've just AI enabled our MLS, and I want to show you 10 ways to use it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you're a broker, like you could have broker meetings and say, hey, why do brokers go into the MLS? Well, they want to measure their KPIs, right? They want to say, you know, relative to the number of price reductions or days on market, things that measure brokerage performance, like show me how I'm doing against my competitors, show me which of my agents are having the hardest time with pricing, that are having the most price reductions or having longest days on market. Like these agents need my help. So
Right.
just show me those agents. You don't have any visibility of that right now. You don't have the way to do that right now.
Yeah.
Show me agents that I should recruit, that are in like, I want to, like, I'm in this town and I'd like to have some agents in that town because we do a lot of business over there. We don't have an office. I need a couple agents so I can, maybe open one. Which agents should I recruit that are most like my agents? So you can do lookalike audiences. Like, show me agents over there that look like my agents. Like, oh, well, here's 10 of them, like, oh my word.
Yeah,
And you
and
get,
importantly,
about,
the
yeah,
rules MLSs have for that accessing that kind of data also will be respected in that
yeah,
process.
yeah. I
No,
mean, it's
we
just
see
another, like
really,
brokers are licensing tools to do that today.
yeah.
They're licensing Corded or Terradatum or whatever for recruiting and retention. But just, I mean, there aren't any limits, but you are giving but they're coming to the MLS. And within that world, the data isn't leaving. So what do you think happens if MLSs don't do this?
Well, I think number one, the rules that you've been talking about and that we've discussed a little bit, sometimes which is referred to as metadata, which is a technical term, but it's really the rules and policies. The MLS is the repository for those, so it makes it so much easier if those are surfaced there. And part of the challenge with standards has been all along, well, every MLS does have a lot of differences. And so getting those to be less is really, really important. But there will always be, for a long time going forward, lots of difference still. And so communicating that metadata is really important. I know, like in doing listing entry, we still have some rules that are not 100% expressed. They're expressed in code rather than in rules. And we're quickly working to resolve that to make it so that you can have full listing entry and editing. Obviously, you saw price changes and other things we can do today, but that will be hopefully very, very soon. We'll be supporting that completely. But I think those rules are the things that the ML, if they don't provide these kind of tools, then people have to go some other route to get them. And so, we see really several, the two primary audiences for this right now, we believe are first agents and the MLS folks, the regular users that are our customers today, but also the developers for brokers and others, because when they are just maybe, for example, working with the API to understand it, well, they're inside their IDE coding something up, they can connect to the Spark MCP server and just look at the metadata and have whatever tool they're using interrogate the metadata and make sure that their query is going to work right away. They don't have to dump out to Postman or some other tool. They'll be able to do a lot of that stuff right inside of that. So and I think they could use the MCP servers itself if they're working with an LLM or something and wanting to do voice enable some of these things. Well, they can do that and use our MCP server to connect, which greatly simplifies, frankly, all, you saw me click on some of those and expand the box and you could see all the code in there. It's writing that code live. That's what the LLM is doing. It's literally writing the code, going out and accessing the information, bringing it back, rewriting it and formatting it into a beautiful looking report. It's all happening live, which is amazing. But if you're a developer, well, that's maybe a lot easier than having to worry about, I'm going to go query this RESTful API. You can just have the LLM do it for you. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's what honestly got us to talking, writing the paper about MCP service for MLSs, talking to folks like you. It was because we have a plethora of brokerage engagement. So Wave Group Technologies, driven by David Gumper, like we work on data lakes for enterprise level brokerages, 500 agents and above, usually significantly more than 500, but there's some pretty darn great brokerages that have around 500 agents, like Seven Gables down in Orange County. I mean, they're doing billions of dollars in trades with they just punch way above their weight class in terms of agent productivity. But these guys they want to implement AI. There's lots of reasons to do it, and when you
This
take
simplifies it a great deal. Yeah.
well, hey, they would have to replicate California regional MLS, or at least a portion of that entire, I don't even know how many terabytes that data set would be, but replicate so much of it in order to run AI in their business. And the cost of managing and storing that data to make AI to an AI enable the MLS data for that brokerage would be stupid. I mean, it'd be way expensive, way hard to do. Whereas, if the MLS just provided them a conduit, they can connect their AI to the MLS for certain purposes, then it's
Yeah,
done.
yeah, it's very cool. I think,
Yeah.
and kind of like from a developer's perspective, what we love about this is that it really helps us learn about our users, but also not have to build this super complicated interface that is going to respond to every little thing, because with this interface they can talk to it, they can type in what they want, and we don't have to have 10 million buttons to allow them to customize every little thing. They can ask for what they want. And that is, again, I think we'll learn a lot in the coming months about how users want to use tools like this, and what will be effective and what will most move the needle for them. But I just think from a development perspective, interfaces are going to get so much easier than they have been. And to your point about the size of a broker, well, they're not going to manage a huge development staff at certain sizes, but now they have, frankly, a very powerful development staff at their hands, with a simple chat GPT or Anthropic account with Claude or whatever the tool might be. And the cost is going to come down. Right now, it's all pretty expensive, frankly. I mean, especially compared to what the MLS costs. So, you can spend $200 a month on the most expensive of these models, and that doesn't even give you unlimited access, right? You can run out of tokens very, very quickly.
I think that's
With
important to talk about. You know, the the economic model for using AI in your business is commensurate with your use. So if I'm an agent who doesn't use this stuff at all, my cost is zero.
right.
If I'm an agent who is just entrenched and I'm pounding my way through it, I can spend as much as I want. And I think that there's some liberty there, right? It's transformational for the way you charge for MLS services, because we always said it's X number of dollars per agent per month. It doesn't matter whether you log in or not. And we've done studies that show that half the agents don't even log in, even though they're paying for the service. They don't log in at all during the month. Zero, you know? Some really fascinating stuff there, but they're paying for it, well, it's metered use for those who adopt it. And it allows for a free market environment where people who really dig in and want to do something special or different can do it their way, pay the amount of money relative to how much they eat.
Yeah, exactly. We're doing a ton. The other cool thing about the pace of innovation is that I'm sure you saw over the last several months the various Chinese open source models, and now OpenAI just last week with their first open source models. And there are all sorts of options out there. In fact, there's so many that betting on any particular one at any point in time probably doesn't make sense. And that's where we've been focusing on how do we make sure all the tools can be used, or as many as possible can be used. And that's where, again, MCP was kind of a nice fast evolution within the AI ecosystem to say, hey, this is a standard. And you never know. I mean, it's moving so fast. Maybe they encounter obstacles. There's certainly things about MCP that are fast and loose, I'll say, and you need to be constrained about how you're connecting with it. And there's all sorts of security questions, not about the authentication, but just generally about how the servers talk to each other and what can happen when agents are unbounded, and how that goes about it, and how do you keep the human in the loop. So all that's changing so fast, but I think from a cost perspective, you will see a lot of these really powerful open source models that then, firms like FBS or others will be able to host and keep the costs much more controlled. than everybody having to go buy an account from one of these AI foundation model
Yeah,
companies.
and I just want to go back, like you showed a drop down box of all the AI agents that you had enabled, right? So within that list of, I don't know how many agents there were, 50 or whatever, within each of those, there may be an open source LLMs. And by the way, ChatGPT is an LLM, so is Claude. So there's a lot of, a lot of different LLMs. And there's a gazillion of them you've never heard of. We know about it because we're developers, but there are a gazillion of them where you can actually A/B test them and you can say, well, for this particular job, let's try this one, which is a lot less expensive,
Yeah,
and see if it's better. And then
yeah,
if it is better, when an agent goes in and selects that particular job, they don't know what's on the back end doing the calculation. If it's the one that is doing the better job, they're happy. But
yeah,
we just saved them some money.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's changing just so fast, like every day is different. I mean, and so, I think like
And you have what, 150 points of light,
yeah,
Not to, I don't know which what was one of the Bush guys said, 1,000 points of light or whatever. But
yeah,
when you as a vendor have 150 markets and you're able to see across all those markets how agents and well, how customers are
yeah,
engaging with the data using AI, you're able to learn very quickly a lot more than anybody can learn on their own.
yeah, yeah. No, that's going to be the fun part, I think, and what we were excited about getting that beta real use case going with our summit. So we're super excited about that, and I know in the coming weeks we'll be learning an enormous amount, and it'll be fun to keep expanding access and making sure we could make it easy to use for everybody, and hopefully cost effective for everybody. Like I said, we have our focal point now, but we're very cognizant of the fact that these things are it's very different than I analogize to the phone world because it is kind of like that. The phones, when iPhone came out, it wasn't cheap, right? When Google, revolutionized a lot of things with various SaaS softwares, they started out being free, right? Like that was their whole thing. Oh, free email, free storage, free this, free that. And everybody kind of got used to like, oh, the internet is making things free. Well, Apple came out with the iPhone and it was anything but free. And that's the AI stuff is much more like that. It, even with the expense that's there, they're subsidizing massively the actual usage. I mean, the cost to running these things is very, very real. Energy, obviously, the compute itself is more expensive. A GPU is way more expensive than regular processors. And so you have this whole radical innovation, and the big question is, well, does it produce enough value to justify spending that money? The short answer seems yes. I mean, you can see in some of the demos like, oh, this is incredibly potentially powerful. Does it help me sell more houses? Well, we'll see about that. We'll see how that goes. It probably won't net produce more. The market is what the market is. But it might help certain agents accelerate their own business. So I think there's a lot to be excited about, but you got to be mindful of security and costs and all of those good things.
Well, Michael, you're very generous with your time, and I appreciate your friendship and jumping on here and recording this. So we hope people enjoy it. We hope they begin to learn about MCP servers and the way that the MLSs can stay in the center of the conversation to enable AI for the people that they serve in the best possible way. It is quite a journey that we're on, and it's sure to have a lot of pitfalls and a lot of excitement, incremental gains as we go through this together. So thank you so much for your time. We'll get you back. We'll have to get together in a few months when you have another amazing thing to talk about. But just good job and thank you so much. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Victor.
Okay.